Hi, it's Jurgen again, and you already knew that, right? Now, I want to talk today about delighting the customer, and the prompt for that was a wonderful conversation I had today on the InnovaBuzz podcast with Paris Cutler. Paris is a blue sky strategist, she calls herself. So she looks into the future and she helps people plan out their future business vision for 10 years and then take action to move towards that. And of course, with the current situation we find ourselves in, where we're being socially isolated, we're being transformed to working from home, many businesses are having to find ways to restructure, to reposition and repurpose what they're doing. So the conversation with Paris was quite enlightening in that context. One of the things she said, and we kind of geeked out on this because we're both very passionate about this, was delighting your customer. And that's the topic of today's little video, delighting your customer. She said that her aim in all of her business is to convert her clients, her audience, into raving fans. That's right, raving fans. Now, the question came about when she took over a cake business, and she asked herself the question, how do I turn this business around? I don't have a lot of money, so what marketing can I do to turn this business around to make it successful? What's the cheapest form and the best form of marketing? And the answer she came up with was word of mouth. She decided she needed to have people go out and tell their friends, tell their family, tell their business associates how wonderful her business was. And how is the best way to do that? She asked herself. It's called customer experience. So if you delight the customer, if you're really good at what you do and you delight them, they will talk about you to other people. Just like I'm about to do with the experience I had. Now, if you've been following my videos, you'll know about my shocking experience with Samsung. That was virtually the extreme opposite of delighting the customer. And I talked about it. So the word of mouth there is very negative. I want to contrast that, though, with the recent experience I had with Shimano. Shimano is a company that, among other things, produces components for bicycles. If you're a regular listener or viewer, you'll know that I'm a mad keen cyclist. I had a crazy experience on a big ride I did where I thought that my pedal, which is a clip-in pedal, was giving me issues. And I ended up riding over 160 kilometers with what I thought was a faulty pedal. And of course, it handicapped me. And there's a whole story going along that, because the mindset and what was going on, the self-talk up here in my mind, combined with how difficult that handicap in equipment was making it, was another story. But what happened, as it turned out, several days later, I discovered that the crank, the pedal arm, had in fact broken on the inside, and later on it actually cracked all the way through and it broke. Now, the pedal arm was manufactured by Shimano. The bike is 4 years old, so it's certainly beyond the 2-year guarantee that they gave. Now, I took the bicycle to the bike store, asked them what they could do. They said this was going to be quite an expensive replacement because these parts are not cheap. And they said, well, perhaps I should get in touch with Shimano directly. The bike store, when they would get in touch with Shimano, would just get told, well, it's out of guarantee, put a new one on, it'll cost you this much. And the chap at the bike store, so I'll give a big shout out to De Grandes here in Geelong. He was very good and said, why don't you contact Shimano and see what they can do? Because if you ask, they might be more inclined to help. So I did that, contacted Shimano, explained the situation to them, and they came back and they said, oh, get De Grandes to send the part in and we'll replace it. So they did that, and it cost me about $20 to have the labor to have it replaced. So it was a really fabulous experience. It happened inside of about 4 days, shipping it to another part of the country from here in Geelong, having the new part, the replacement part returned and built in. So both from Shimano and from De Grande, it was a wonderful experience. So any cyclists out there listening here in Geelong, De Grande provide really good service. And for anyone listening anywhere, Shimano, they really came to the party here. As I say, well outside the guarantee period. I explained to them the fault. I sent them some photographs. I said that to me, this looked like a material fault, and no questions asked, they replaced it. So that is really good customer service. It's a big contrast to my experience with Samsung. Just as an aside, though, my Samsung phone has been repaired. It was repaired by a third-party technical workshop that Samsung obviously contract, because that's where it came from. It arrived here on my doorstep today. It's all ready to go. I'm just restoring the backups for it. So the tail end of the story was actually pretty good. And again, great customer experience from that third-party organization. The problem is, though, every step of that journey that I went through here with the experience of the phone was not a good experience. So the key thing with delighting the customer is every step of the journey, every touch point has to be fabulous. So there we go, Shimano and De Grande, good job. Keep it up. That's what I like to see. My final little point today is going on more about the changes that we're all experiencing now and how we can pivot our business. And just a reminder that I'm going to be running a free webinar this Friday to talk about all things podcasting. I will be doing a very short presentation on podcast guesting and how we can use podcast guesting as a kind of a PR platform in this day and age, and also then answering questions about all things podcasting, or indeed if you want to ask me about other things related to online business, working from home, working with remote teams, quite happy to answer whatever I can and hopefully provide that wonderful customer experience. The link will be in the show notes for the video, in the comments for the social media postings, and I'll also attach it to the podcast episode if you are accessing the audio of this episode through the private podcast. Remember, you can access all these daily thoughts going back to right to when I started just over a week ago on our private podcast channel. And I've created a link to that, so you can find that private podcasting channel at innovabiz.co/leading. So go check that out. It's run in a system called Soundwise. So there's an app that goes with that, but that will give you access to a private podcast. You won't find this on iTunes or Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts, because I'm trialing out the use of a private system so that later on, if this works out, I will be putting together some upmarket content, some content that will be training programs that people can consume via audio. So keep your eye out for that as well. As I say, the webinar, being a podcast guest, check out the link, register for the webinar, got to learn to say it. Register for the webinar. Hopefully I'll see you there. Should be fun, and I look forward to your questions and comments. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe, keep well, and keep being awesome.